The Toyota Supra was a car that once ruled the streets. A car that went from laughingstock to legend over the last 4 decades, including some years that almost ended the Toyota Supra before it became one of the most influential cars to ever come out of Japan. But then something strange happened, following its rise to fame, its unexpected fall, and its incredible return. In 1979, Toyota introduced the Celica Supra. Think of it as a Celica's bigger, stronger brother. It was longer and wider than the regular Celica. Plus, it has a little surprise, a 6-cylinder engine instead of the Celica's regular 4-cylinder. The new car was Toyota's way of competing with other sport coupes, like the Datsun 280ZX. Imagine this first-generation Celica hitting the gym and coming back buffer and more athletic. That's basically what the Celica Supra was.
Presenting the new Toyota Supra and Dan Gurney.
In 1982, Toyota gave the Supra a makeover. This version started to look less like the Celica and more like its own car. It had a more aggressive sporty look and better performance, it was faster and handled better. While it did still share some parts with the Celica, it was starting to become its own thing. The Supra was like a teenager finding their own style. Still part of the family, but definitely unique.
Now the all-new Toyota Supra brings it alive.
1986 was a big year for the Supra. It finally dropped the Celica part of its name and became just Supra. This was a huge deal because now it was its own model, completely separate from the Celica. The design was totally different, sleeker, and more modern. Plus, the later versions had a little surprise, a turbocharged engine, making some fun noises. This is when people really started to see the Supra as a true performance car. Think of this as the Supra moving out of its parents' house and living on its own. It was all grown up now.
Introducing the revolutionary new Toyota Supra.
The 1993 Supra is the one that most people think of when they hear Supra. It looked amazing. It was low, wide, and with a huge rear spoiler. It just caught eyes. The twin turbocharged version was incredibly fast for its time. Its engine, the 2JZ GTE, became legendary. Even without modifications, it was powerful. But with modifications, it can make crazy amounts of power and do stuff like this. It was featured in movies and video games, making it even more popular among non-car people. The generation was like a star athlete in their prime, at the top of their game and known by everyone. And while we're on the topic, the 2JZ engine deserves a special mention. It was so well built that even today, almost 30 years later, people still use it for high-performance builds. The 4th generation Supra was peak. It set the standard that the modern Supra, introduced in 2020, had to live up to. But we'll talk about that later in the video. Despite its impressive performance and cult-like following, the Toyota Supra sales began to decline in late 1990s. For several reasons. First, the consumer preferences were changing dramatically. People were moving away from sports cars and towards boring SUVs and more practical vehicles. This shift was happening for a few reasons. SUVs offered more space for families and their stuff. They also gave drivers a sense of safety with the higher riding position and larger size. Plus, the rugged, adventurous image of SUVs appealed to many buyers, even though they never actually take them off-road. The Supra, as cool as it was, just couldn't compete with these new desires in the market. Secondly, economical factors played a big role. The Supra wasn't a cheap car, not even in the 90s. It was a high-performance machine with a price tag to match. That made it a tough sell when the economy got shaky. In 1997, a major economic crisis hit Asia. The Asian financial crisis had a ripple effect on the global economy, making people think twice about buying an expensive car. As a result, Japanese luxury and sports cars, including the Supra, took a big hit in sales. People became boring and more cautious with their money, as they were less likely to splurge on a sports car. And third, stricter emission regulations were being put in place in many countries. These new rules made it harder to sell cars with powerful engines that used a lot of fuel. The Supra, especially in its twin turbo form, was exactly the kind of car these regulations were targeting. Making the Supra's engine meet these new standards would have been expensive, and might have reduced its performance, the very thing that made it special. All these factors combined created a perfect storm for the Supra. Sales were dropping and it was getting harder to justify keeping it in production. Toyota had to make a tough choice. You see, in 1998, they decided to stop selling the Supra in the United States, which just happened to be its biggest market outside of Japan. Car held on a bit longer in its home country, but even there, time was running out. As in 2002, Toyota finally stopped making the Supra altogether. This marked the end of an era of Japanese sports cars. The Supra had been a symbol of Toyota's ability to make exciting, high-performance vehicles, and its departure left a hole in the hearts of car enthusiasts worldwide. But the automotive world was changing for the worse, and even legendary cars like the Supra weren't immune to these shifts. But the Supra story didn't end here. Although the Supra disappeared from the showrooms in 2002, it definitely didn't vanish from people's memories. For almost 20 years, the Supra lived on in the world of car enthusiasts, pop culture, and nostalgia. It got a huge boost in popularity when it starred in the movie Fast and the Furious in 2001. This kept the Supra's image alive, even though you couldn't buy a new one anymore. During this time, Toyota was aware of how much people loved the car. They started dropping hints that they might bring it back. They showed off concept cars at auto shows that looked more like modern Supras. This got fans excited, but for years, nothing concrete happened. It was like Toyota was teasing everyone. But finally, in 2020, Toyota made it official. The Supra was coming back.
Without Supra, I couldn't be a master driver. I trained my master driver ability by driving Supra a long time ago. I went to New Brooklyn and together with Mr. Naruse, who taught me how to drive the car. But today, I felt I meet a friend from long time ago. We are kind of separated, but now we meet again. We are back in New Brooklyn.
This new Supra, called the A90, was different from the old ones in a big way. Toyota had teamed up with BMW to make it. This meant that under the Supra's skin, it shared a lot of parts with the BMW Z4 Roadster. When it first came out, the new Supra had a 3.0-liter turbocharged 6-cylinder engine. This was obviously a nod to the old Supra, which was famous for its 6-cylinder engines. But as we just spoke about, this engine actually came from BMW, not Toyota. In 2021, they added another option, a smaller 2.0-liter 4-cylinder engine, also from BMW. The comeback of the Supra has been pretty successful so far. Car magazines and reviewers have said a lot of good things about it. It even won a spot on Car and Driver's 10 Best list, which is a big deal in the car world. Car and Driver also added one to their long-term test fleet. This means they're driving it every day for a year or more, showing that it's not just a fun weekend car, but something you can use as a daily. People have praised the new Supra for how it handles on the road, how fast it is, and how easy it is to live with day to day. However, there's one thing they got wrong. It's not as popular with tuners and modifiers as the old Supra was. The old Supra, especially the 4th generation, was famous for how easy it was to work on and modify, and make so much power. The new one isn't quite there yet, but that might change as people get more familiar with it. Not everyone is happy with the new Supra though. Some diehard Toyota fans aren't pleased that it has so many BMW parts. We all know what happens to BMWs. I'm kidding, BMW's cool. They argue that it's not a real Toyota because of this. They wanted a Supra that was 100% Toyota like the old ones, and I really don't blame them. But on the flip side though, people are happy that Supra's back. Teaming up with BMW allowed them to bring the Supra back, which might not have happened without them. Making a brand new sports car from scratch is super expensive, and it's hard for companies to make money on them. By sharing costs with BMW, Toyota was able to make the Supra a reality again. In the end, the new Supra has sparked a lot of debate in the car world, but whether you love it or hate it, or have doubts, one thing's for sure, it got people talking about the Supra again, and that's something Toyota fans have been waiting for nearly 20 years. In conclusion, the Toyota Supra's journey from its origins as a Celica variant to its own current status as a reborn sports car icon is a fascinating tale of automotive evolution. Its ability to maintain relevancy and excitement even after a 2-decade hiatus is a testament to its strength of its legacy and Toyota's commitment to performance vehicles. The Toyota Supra was seriously something special. So, that's all for this one. Please let me know what you guys want to see next. Leave it in the comments down below. I like making these types of videos, so I'll make plenty more. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!